Hey, hello, it's Tammy. It is time to paint Mr. Rooster Roo and his little chick, if you like. Let me first find us on the group. I did just post a bunch of pictures that were different examples that other people did when I took this at Diverse Woodworking. Of course, we've added a chick to it too. I think I've come up with a way for you to see this better rather than you having to see it upside down. So I'm going to finagle the camera for just a sec. I was going to do this on a galvanized bucket, but I felt the bucket was going to be a little challenging. So I picked up this washboard. It's really in rough shape. It's very dirty. But I put the pattern on this. I think this will work out pretty well for this piece. I think you'll be able to see it better on something flat like this. This was the original one I did for the Diverse Woodworking. Excuse me. And we started this on a black background. The one thing about the black background is that you automatically had we had black background, so it aided in the shading quite a bit. So that's something to think about if you haven't done your background. That's an option. I did this one, and I tried to follow directions in a pattern packet, and it didn't work. However, I did end up just using a brush about like this to make my checks. And how I did that was I actually did use the chisel edge of my brush and came in and made lines about the width of the brush both ways. And then I just kind of came in and lightly filled them in with that color. In this case, this was like an off-white and a black. And then I chose to go around my edge with a dark midnight. If you want to do a board like this, but you didn't want to do the fresh eggs, I probably would just go ahead and pull this down on the side and down on the bottom and outline the whole thing with that border. So that's the other option. I'm going to set that here. And hopefully you'll be able to see that as we're painting. Good. And then today I was playing around and I did it on a old coffee pot. And I just did the chick just did the rooster, and I have not varnished this yet. This was a little tricky to do it on because of the slick enamel surface. And again, because I didn't have anything for the color of the background, I had to go over it a couple times so that I created the feather look. But that's another idea for you. So I saw Joanne pop on. Hello, hello, hello. And I'm going to do him on this washboard. I'm going to do the rooster first, and then I'm going to lay the pattern on for the chick. You could put the whole pattern on and just work around the part that's the chick if you wanted to. I actually felt it was easier to go ahead and do the whole rooster first and then come back and add the chick. So that's why I have my tracing paper here. Hello, April. Hello, Val. Nice to see you. Let me scooch this over here for just a second. I'm going to grab, these are the colors I showed you. And if you look at the examples that I just posted, let me see if I can pull it up on my other phone. I might be able to. Yeah. So I just posted a bunch of other photos to show you that there are people who got very creative. There was a green background. Each one ends up looking just a little different because everybody has slightly different pressure they put on their brush. Some people mixed in some different colors. This guy ended up looking more like a silky. There's somebody who got very creative, but I just wanted you to see some other examples, and that the last one was actually mine. So if there's extra colors you want to pull into yours, that's perfectly okay. All right. Hello, April. Good to see you guys. Okay. Colors that I listed were a white, black, a brown, a dark chocolate, burnt umber, just a good brown. And then I did use golden straw on his yellowish feathers. If you don't have golden straw, you can make it with a yellow, brown, and a little bit of white. It comes out pretty close. I used midnight for my blue. If you don't, and then when I make the lighter version, it's that color plus white, and then plus more white. If you don't have midnight and you like that tone, just use a brighter blue, like a primary blue, and add a little black to it, and you can get that. Red, I think I used just primary red. I don't even know where I did it. I might have used Tuscan. The red is just going to be for their gobblers and their hood things and right around their eyes. If you are going to use the lettering that I did on the fresh eggs, Heritage Brick was used just to do the outlining of the letters. And I think that's about it. Optional colors would be orange, just to add a little extra color. Again, you can add as much as you want. I'm going to keep them pretty much the same. So they're going to look pretty much, this guy was done with the same colors as that one. Actually, this one was just done with primary blue that I added a little black to. But we can see that as well. I don't think you're going to see that if I lay that down. You may not be able to see him at all. Okay, so hopefully this will be a better angle for you. And I'll pop this one back in now and again. All right, I'm going to grab something to drink real quick. Brushes. Always use the brushes that are most comfortable for you. I did the majority of this with a 12 flat that had a decent chisel edge and a round. I had a round somewhere. Like a 5 or a 3 round. I tell you, it'd be dangerous. You might need a small flat if you're going to do a little bit of floating, but it's going to be very little. The round was mostly for filling in the eye area. I know I have a round close by. I'll use this one. All right. So we're going to get started. And the first thing we're going to do on grabbing a red. Sorry, guys. I knew I had it out here. Where did I put it? Okay. Oh, there it is. I put it away. So I'm going to grab red. I've got Tuscan red out here. Tuscan is a pretty good covering red. So we're starting with our rooster. I will try to watch for comments, but no, I'll come back afterwards and look if you have any questions. So red, the side, we're going to fill in, this is a little wobbly, his eye, his gobbler, his comb, and there's a second little circle right by his eye. That all gets filled in with red. If you are doing this on a dark background, your red probably will not cover well with one coat. That's okay. It doesn't have to. Like I said, the nice thing about that black background is it automatically added some shading both to my wing feathers and also into my reds, because red being a little more of a sheer color, it doesn't always cover well the first time. So we're just base coating this in. And feel free to get a little more wild and crazy with your comb. Don't worry about the eyeball. Go right over it with the red. So this piece of wood is very rough. I picked this up at the flea market yesterday. This was not what I thought I was going to paint on it, but it's kind of nice to have a flat surface to paint on instead of, like I said, the bucket would have been a little hard. Okay, so I did get decent coverage. But you may not. You may need to give it a second coat, so just let it be. I'm going to rinse that out. I'm going to use my golden straw, or you're going to mix a color that looks about like golden straw, and I'm going to fill in his little feet with this color. Now I know that I may cover up part of this when I add the chick on top of them. That's okay. I'm just gonna fill it in. On your pattern, you have some numbers. This is 1, this is 1. 1, 1, this was 2, this was 3, and 3. And the reason I did it that way was so that you could have an idea of where those feathers kind of stop and start. So I'm going to leave this as it is for right now. Here's the silly thing. I did fill in the beak first with the golden color, but then I came back and filled it in with gray. So it can be either a golden beak or it can be a gray beak. I don't know why I changed my mind on that, but I did. I did it. Okay, so I'm going to start with where you're going to have number 1, which would be the midnight. And we're going to need to have some white on our plate too. Now, this being very old wood may take more paint than it did on a newer piece of wood. We'll find out. So here's how I'm going to start this out. I'm going to load my brush by pushing my brush down and flipping it over and pushing it down. This way I have actually quite a bit of paint, but I've got that nice skinny chisel edge. And that's how I'm going to apply most of my paint, is on that chisel edge. And I'm going to start in the back plumes, and I'm just going to start pulling some color. When I run out, I'll reload again. And I'm going to kind of use shape following strokes, meaning I'm just going to let them fly downward. Okay. It's about that far. Yeah, about that far. Okay. Then I'm going to pick up a little bit of the blue, and I'm going to pick up a little black. That's my black. So I've got blue, I've got a little black, and I'm going to go and fill in some strokes. Keep it really kind of messy, free, messy and free. Okay. Now, those colors are going to blend a little bit because I'm going over them while they're still a little wet. Hello, Becky. I need to talk to you, Becky. Don't let me forget. Okay. Now, I haven't cleaned my brush out. I'm going to go back into my blue. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white. And I'm going to make this lighter blue. And I'm going to stroke in some lighter blue, too. Hello, hello. Oops, I did not want to get it over here. I'll clean that up. Okay. Now, if I keep going and going, I'm just going to blend it into nothingness. So let it be for a minute or two. And let's go back to the straight blue. And the other one that was 1 was starting underneath his neck feathers. And we're going to do his chest feathers. Now keep them just kind of choppy. If you push down on your brush, you'll get bigger strokes. And we've got this little bit on his leg, so just kind of, we'll get that better with a smaller brush. But for right now, we're just gonna fill in first with the blue. Then I'm gonna pick up a little blue with a little black. Especially add a little of that darkness right next to his, what is that? Neck feathers. Neck, chest. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Okay. Get a few of those in there. Then back to your blue. Pick up a little bit of white. Making a lighter blue and just lightly add some of these lighter strokes. Not everywhere. You want to be able to see the building of these feathers. You're going to need to do another coat, so don't feel like this is one and done. If you just joined me, I said you can put both patterns on and work around your hen. I just think it was, for me, it was easier to actually to do the whole rooster and then do my chickadee. Okay. I'm going to rinse my brush out. Really push hard on the bottom of your container to get most of the paint out. So I can still see I've got quite a bit of blue in there. So I'm going to rinse it again. I want to get most of that out. Okay, I'm going to pick up my golden straw color. And I'm going to start with, oh, wait, this is 3. I'm wrong. Hold, please. Sorry. So this was 1. Now we're going to do 2. And 2 is going to be making a lighter version of your blue. So you want it to be lighter than even those strokes we did before. Okay. So that's lighter. And that little poof that starts right here is going to be your lighter blue. And this is going to go on top. Don't worry if you don't feel like you've got enough feathers here. We're just going to put this down for the first time just to let us know where that's going to be at before we go into our yellows. Okay. If you want, you can go right into some white too and pick up a little lighter. Because it's still wet, it's going to blend. Okay. So the idea is to have the darker blue and a lighter blue. Poof. Then rinse your brush. We'll lay in the first bit of these golden ones first on his back. So think about it following the back of his body. Okay. So we've got these feathers that are going to come down and around. Definitely going to need some more paint here. And then have a brown. Any brown will do. I don't know what I just picked up. I picked up light cinnamon. I know it's not what I used before, but go ahead and get your first bits of your golden colors. Then with the yellow still in your brush, pick up a little bit of brown and add some brown strokes. Follow the shape of the back of that bird. Okay. He's got this little area right here where those feathers are actually kind of coming more in toward him. And those will be easier to do. Just lay in a little color for now. Those will be much easier with a smaller round. But right now, we just want to get this basic color in. So not cleaning my brush, I'm going to go back to the yellow. And I'm going to go right underneath that gobbler. I can clean it up with my second coat. So if you get a little on it, don't worry. Oops, I picked up a little blue. That's okay. And I'm just using that chisel of my brush. And then as I come around here, I want to think of these being nice long bits of feathers. And again, I'm going to dab a little bit into my brown and add a couple of those darker strokes. And dirty brush, pick up a little bit of white. And I'm going to lay in some whites. Don't go over the exact everywhere, just a little bit. So we should, at this point, look like 1, 2, 3 and a half, 4, 5 sections of feathers. So rinse your brush. Let's go back to our red. And in most cases, you're going to have to give it a second coat. I'm pretty good. I've got a couple spots that are a little iffy. I'm going to extend my comb here a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of black. I've got red on my brush, right? I'm going to pick up a little bit of black. I'm going to mix it in with a little bit of the red. And I'm going to go in front. There's 2 sections to his comb. There's this section and this section. So I'm going to go next to the back section with that red and black mix. I can also go around that eye with this red and black mix. If you would rather float this, you can certainly do that too. If I was going to float it, let me show you. I would grab a flat brush. I would pick up just a tiny bit on the corner of my brush, just the very tiny bit. I would push it down a couple times on my plate so my color blends out. And if I was floating it, I could just lay that color next to where I want the color to fade away from. And remember, we've got that little bit of a circle behind him too. He's right next to it. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go ahead with this color that I have on here right now, and I'm going to go underneath my reds on my yellow. I may need to redo that, but that's okay for right now. It gives me a idea. Okay. Rinse your brush out. And this would be one of those times that I might pick up a little orange if I have it, or you can just use the yellow with a little bit of red. I'm going to pick up the orange. I'm going to float this. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the corner, push it down, and I'm going to go just a little bit in the front of each of those sections of my gobbler. Just a little bit. And I'm going to go a little bit on the tips of my comb. Just pull a little bit up and into. It's still wet, so it's going to blend. Okay. Using a round, or you can even use the wooden end of your brush if you want. Let's create the center of his eye, which is black. It's just a black circle. Okay. Okay. Now this is where I said, I don't know why I changed my mind, but I gave him a gray beak instead of a white beak or a yellow beak. So if I'm going to change it to gray, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to pick up white on that black brush to create a gray. And fill it in. There goes the dogs. Why it's wet. I'm going to take most of that off. I'm going to go into the straight black, roll my brush, and I'm going to split his beak. Go around and pull just a little bit of that darker black to gray from the back side toward the front. Okay. Now using your round brush, we're going to leave him alone for a second and let what's happening just kind of chill out for a sec. Okay. We're going to go back to our feathers. So remember, our back feathers were just straight blue to begin with, and I'm going to use this round now so I can create a few more feathers. And where it's a little skimpy on color, I can add a little more. And I'm going to do the exact thing I did before. I'm going to start with my blue. Well, this time I'm using this round brush. This is where you want to get pretty good coverage, whether you're covering your black or whether you're working on a light surface. So I've got my blue in first. I'm going to pick up some blue and black. I'm going to make sure that they see that darker next to my lighter butt pluff. I don't think that was the right terms, but we'll call that the butt fluff. So there's my black in there, a little darker. Then I'll go back to my blue with some white to lighten it up, and I'll add some lighter blue streaks. You can get as light as you like. Just remember, you want this part right in here to be the lightest part. So these can be lighter, but we still want to think that when we come to do that second part, we'll make those much lighter. Let it be for a sec and do the same thing on your chest. So start with your blue, and they can be different size strokes too. You decide if you've got a chicken that's got, or a rooster that's got nice long feathers, or maybe some of them are shorter. This is where I said it's easier to come in on this little part of his leg. Then add a few with the dark blue. The blue and the black makes the dark blue, the really dark blue. This is where you want to make sure you're getting some of that darkness right next to where his yellow feathers are. Then we'll go back to blue and add a little of the white, so we have some lighter strokes. And if it's easier to go with a skinnier brush to make smaller strokes, by all means, you might, depending on your surface, need to add a little water to get those strokes to flow off of your brush a little better. Because this particular surface is very dry, it's soaking up this paint like nobody's business. You want to make sure he's darker right underneath here. Okay. I'm going to make a really light blue. And with my smaller brush, I'm going to add some of these extra little poofs right at his backside. I do not know chicken and rooster anatomies properly, so we're just going to call them butt poofs right now. Okay. Still working with my smaller brush. I'm going to go ahead and go back into the yellow colors. Now, here again, if I want to brighten this up a little bit, I might choose to grab a lighter yellow or a brighter yellow. Grab a primary yellow, I think. Maybe. So this is primary yellow, so that's a little brighter. I'll just have some of that around, just in case I want it. I'm going to do the same thing. Before I add these, though, I do want to make sure that between my red and my yellow, that it's a good, that it's broken up quite a bit. So this one, you can come in and see I really floated more of that. And I might need to do that. And I'll pick up a little bit of the black on the corner of my brush. And I'm just going to come down here, and it doesn't have to be a perfect float. It's just so I can pull in a little bit of these darker colors in here. Maybe even pull some of the chisel. Okay. Pull a little bit of that in there. You might even want to define between here. So this might be a little more shaded. Just that one little section. And he's going to get covered up by the hen pretty soon. But back to my yellows. Let's do his back first. Do his neck feathers last. So I'm going to pull a few of these in. You can use the chisel of your brush, or you can use the round brush, whatever feels best for you to fill it in. But either way, by going back and doing this second layer, you should be able to see more of these strokes. I'm going to pick up some of that brighter yellow too. Pull them down as far as you want them to be. Pull some of the brighter yellow and a little white. No two are ever going to be exactly alike. I love that. I always like panic when somebody goes, "Can you make me something just like you did for so-and-so?" It's like, no, probably not. I can make something similar. But the way I paint today may not be the way I painted yesterday. And here again, if you want to pull in a couple extra, whoops, I don't know, I'm not sure what I just did there. If you want to pull in a little more brown, if you want to pull in a little orange, I'm going to put a little orange in these ones that are going this way. Maybe a couple this way too. Just a little bit. Just kind of flick it, flick it. Flick it, flick it. And then go and do these longer strokes that are going to come down over so I'm using the golden straw. I'm using a little bit of that brighter yellow. Oops, didn't like that one. We will just create another one. Pick up a little bit of white with it. Okay. I got a little too bright there, so I'll just go back over it with the yellow or the golden straw. And he doesn't have to be all perfectly groomed. He might have some feathers that are going this way too. Okay. Rinsing that off. I'm going to take a little bit of white and I'm going to thin it down with just a little bit of water. Okay. And I'm going to very lightly go like from, let's say from about 1 o'clock to about 7 o'clock. And then I'm going to tap it with my finger just to kind of make it fuzzy. Okay. Then with just the very tip of my round or liner brush, about at 2 o'clock, just inside 2 o'clock, I'm going to give him a straight little dot. Just a dot. That's kind of what that looks like. Okay. Oops. This way. Wrong way. There we go. Sorry, guys. Then give him a couple small little dashes in that back circle. In the red part, we're going to go, if that was a clock, we're going to go from about 10 o'clock to about 1 o'clock. Just make him be broken up. And give him a little bit of a quick mark down below and a couple of marks here and there in his cone with the white. Set them off. I'm going to pick up a little tiny bit of white and just on the very tip of my beak, pull a little white in. On my feet, they were that golden straw color. So if they need a second coat, give them a second coat. If they don't worry about it. Then pick up your brown and just very roughly, lightly, sketchily, however the word you want to use, outline parts of the feet. Don't do the whole thing, just kind of here and there to help define them a little bit. And why I'm using white cinnamon. Give him a couple lines in his feet. His feet are very unimportant. I hate to say that, but they kind of are. And then just take a minute, look at your guy and see if there's spots that maybe you'd like to see some of these feathers come down a little further. Maybe we could use a little more white in there to help. Okay. That's kind of your rooster. You can see these strokes look a little different than those. Those look much different than the ones I did on the enamel coffee pot. But that's going to be him for there. I'm going to put the pattern on for the little chick next. I might need to blow dry that. I'm not sure. Give it just a sec. Couple places I want you to pay attention to. If you look at this guy, you can kind of see that that lighter stroke does help define his back. I didn't do it as much on this one. Definitely shows up that they're a little lighter there. And again, that black really does help define them there. And it's why I've got so much shading in these, is the black is underneath there. And I kind of did it there. I think we're pretty good. Let's grab our chick. Here's my chick. And I think that's about where she's supposed to go. I'm going to grab some graphite paper and a stylus. And graphite paper always has a shiny side and a dull side. You always want to put the shiny side toward your surface. Just check this super quick. Okay, I'm going to slide him under here. All right. Don't worry about all these little feathers. Just really get the idea of the shape of her. And about where these feathers are. Again, I'm just kind of sort of not worrying too much about the feet. I can kind of create them on my own. Come up here for her head, for her beak. She's got a gobbler. We're going to go around her eye. I missed a bit of this. It's okay. We'll figure it out. There's the comb. Can I see her? Okay, good enough. Good. This is why we hit it with a blow dryer, so we don't get paint on our graphite paper. Okay, I know she's hard to see, but trust me, okay? So we're gonna do kind of the same thing we did on the rooster, and that is, something is bothering me, hang on. On our rooster, he really should have a little definition, right? I'm gonna pick up a red and black, so we're gonna come up with that red-black color. He really needs to have a little more definition for his comb. Okay, I'm gonna go back with the red, just soften that in. There. Just like. We need to separate his comb from his head, and we didn't do a really good job. Okay, red. Fill in her comb that I'm not seeing very well. Okay. The red part around her eye. Fill the whole thing in. And her bit of her gobbler. Move you a little tiny bit closer. Bring you down a little bit. Okay. There's my gobbler. I'm just going to go ahead and fill in her beak with that gray. Maybe pick up a little bit of the darker gray or black right next to where it's going to meet her at her face and her gobbler. Split those beaks. Split them. Go back to your white and pull from her little beak point back in. Okay. Rinse that out and go ahead and lay in her feetsies. I was not very concerned about her feet being anatomically correct. If you want them to be anatomically correct, go for it. Hold that up. Okay. So our chicken is mostly white and black. In our case, a lot of gray is going to happen. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make a gray first. So I'm going to make a gray with white and a little black. Okay. And I'm going to use the chisel in my brush. And I'm going to first go around, starting at the top of her head, very top of her head. I'm going to go around and use the chisel in my brush. Oops, I messed up her eye already. It's okay. And I'm just going to like lay in where these neck feathers are. Now, we're going to have to do this again, but this is just to give you some color first, okay? So here's your gray in there. And you can see that gray really helps cover up the rooster behind it pretty well. Okay. We're going to do that to go around her tummy. Go around where it's going to go for her little foot here. Just go around with the gray. We're not filling it in yet. We're just kind of creating the shape so you know where. Oops, I picked up some yellow. Didn't mean to. I just want to be able to see that this is her. This is going to go for this leg. This is her body. Then I'm going to, gray, I'm going to fill this in with little choppy strokes like such. These are just little strokes like this, little blop blop. This is just to give it some color, okay? And do this up until you get to that bottom part of her darker wing. go. Yeah. Trying to angle this so you can see her a little better. There we go. I think that's better. Okay. So just choppy, choppy, choppy. Okay. Bring in a little bit of darker black, darker gray or black right next to the top part of where her neck feathers are going to come into those body feathers. So this gal has body feathers, neck feathers, and wing feathers. So this is the black. I'm just going to go on the chisel of my brush to make it a little darker there. And we can hit a couple spots too. Just give it a couple bouncy spots. Okay. I know she looks weird. It's okay. It's okay. She's going to be okay. We're going to go to straight black. I'm still using that. I'm using the 12 flat. And I want you to think about those very back feathers. And I want you to start pulling those in toward her body. So they're going to be black. And they're going to come in toward her body. This is just to start giving us some color. We're going to be using a much smaller brush to make her little okay. And now we need to create that wing shape. So come where her wing is going to start here, and it's the black. Just little choppy strokes. Might need to come back and bring these in further. I know, she looks kind of weird. I'm going to rinse my brush out. Whatever your surface is at this point, you just want it to be mostly covered with a gray in her body part. I just used a different color gray, but that's okay. It's going to be darker as she gets up to the front. And then we'll start adding in the long strokes. Now, the last thing we're going to do on her, what we're going to do is we're going to work on this part, her chest. Then we'll work on the back wing, the tail and the back wing. And then the last part will be working on her neck feathers. So that being said, I'm going to rinse out my big brush I was using. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. And this for me was just easier to do a smaller flat. And we want to build up these colors. So we don't want to go straight white yet. We want it to be a very light gray to begin with. And I'm going to start near her neck, and I'm going to make little strokes. Choppy little strokes. We've got to remember that we've got a shade to separate her light too. So this is just my light gray. Just make choppy little strokes. First I'm doing it with gray. It's light gray. I'll get lighter. Still using that lighter gray. I need to define her leg. So that's where I'm going to need to pick up a little of the darker color and just kind of lay it in here so that we can see that this goes to her leg. Wipe my brush off. I didn't clean it, and I'm going to go into straight white. And again, these nice little choppy strokes. You could do this with a round brush too. Going in with white. Nice little choppy strokes. Before you do your last bit of little strokes, choppy strokes, go ahead and same thing as we did with Mr. Rooster. Just kind of choppily outline parts of her feet. We're going to have her standing in some dirt here in a few minutes, so it's okay. It doesn't have to be much. A couple of lines. Then go back with your light gray to white and really do your last little filling in of her chest strokes, her back body strokes. All right, rinse your brush. Go in to straight black first. And we're going to do her tail feather first. So I'm going to pull in the black. I'm doing the same little short little strokes, but I'm pulling these in toward her body. So starting on the outer feathers and pulling them in, little strokes, and it may end up looking almost solid black to begin with. It's okay. We're going to come back and lighten with a different color, and that will really help create the feathers. These are short little strokes. Dirty brush, pick up some white, tap it, so it's not going to be straight white. It's going to be more of a gray. And this time I want you to, instead of stroking, I want you to almost like tap them. Okay? And that's going to start making her look a little fluffy and feathery. Don't get too spazzy about perfect placement. They look better when they're kind of a little more haphazard. So we're doing this about a third to halfway down, even a little further. Okay. Actually, you can go almost all the way. Yeah. Fill it in. Look at me changing my mind. So I've got those little taps. I'm going to wipe my brush off. I'm not cleaning it. I'm wiping it off, just so I'm getting most of the black off. And I'm going to go into straight white. Okay? I'm going to tap it again first. And I just want a couple spots that are really much stronger white. Okay. All right. Wipe your brush. Go back to your black and tap in, tap, this side wing here. Pick up some white, tap it on your plate so you get a nice gray, and the top part of that side wing going into the tail feather is tapped in with this gray. And you might pick up a little black as you go. It's okay. Wipe it off. Go into stronger white. Still tapping it. And there's just a couple bigger strokes in here. Stronger white again. So we should have this mostly gray to white chest, this side wing, and then it goes into the grays. Now we're going to go back up to our neck feathers. And here's where we can go ahead and pick up our round again. Or you can use the chisel of your brush. I'm going to go in just my white, and I'm going to like stroke it on. I'm still going to see some of that gray through, but I want to see some nice long strokes of the white, and then I'll add some choppier ones too. But first, let's kind of really lay in a couple long ones, and then we can go with our round and flick some little whites. Bloop, bloop, bloop. This very much is about the layers, isn't it, Joanne? It doesn't seem like it's going to turn out like this, and then all of a sudden you're going to go, oh, yeah, I see it. Remember, these are on top of your chest feathers. And if you ever get that it gets to be too white, remember, we can always come in and stroke in some grays or even black if we need to. We want to see a little bit of that, catch those colors underneath. But like right in here, it got pretty white. So I'm going to pick up just a little black and make a gray. And I'm just going to stroke an extra shade, stroke or two in there, and it'll break it up. And I can come back with white on top of that. But before I do my last on her, I'm going to go back with my red. In most cases, you're probably going to need a whole second coat. I probably don't need it, but I'm going to fill in what I do need. So I've given this another coat of red. I'm going to pick up red with a tiny bit of black to make that darker reddish color. If you want to use a color, you could use like Heritage Brick would probably work too. And I'm going to help separate her comb from her head. I'm going to come along and separate her gobbler from her eye. I'm going to come around the back part of her eye. And let's kind of come down the back part of the gobbler too with this darker red color. Okay. Now, either with just a little thinned black or floated color, you could decide. So I'm going to thin my black a little bit. And I'm just going to go around this red on the white. I'm doing this before I do my very last bit of white on my neck feathers. It's just straight black. Okay. Going with straight black and give her an eyeball. You need to let that dry for just a sec. Outline her beak. Rinse my brush. Pick up a little bit of white. I'm going to pull a little more white just from the very tip of her beak in. I'm going to give it a couple little lines in the front of the gobbler, maybe one little one in the back. Give a couple little white marks in the comb. Probably about 11 to 9 on the outer red. Then just the very tip into my white, into my brush, or you can even just use the tip of a toothpick. And about at, let's call this about 10. Oops, my black's still too wet. Try that again. Wipe most of that off and maybe just a slight little highlight around. Mine is too wet. Let your eye dry a tiny bit and then just give it just a tiny little line, maybe from about 3 to 4. Just a little line. Still too wet. Good enough. A little bit of a highlight. Okay, so I shaded around her area. Now I can go back in with my white and really make some nice, strong white neck feathers. If there's any area, I'm a little light in through here, so I'm just going to go back with my smaller flat, and I think that could be more of my really dark gray, not quite black, but I'm just going to tap in a little bit here. Now, I don't like anything floating in mid-air, especially not my chickens. So I'll pick up a little bit of brown, and I'm just going to almost dry brush underneath these feet. And because that color is so close to what I outlined, it is the same color I outlined it with, I'm going to pick up a little bit of black with that brown. Picked up a little yellow in there too, just so I could. Okay, now's the point where we just need to kind of like take a look. Is there any place that we could use a little more definition? I think she could use a little bit in here. So I'm going into my black here, and I'm just going to, whoa, way too much. That was way too much. Rinse my brush. Not quite so strong with the black. Just going to make sure I can see some. And I'm looking at my Rooster's comb, and these white lines are just a little too harsh for me. So I'm just going to kind of come back with them. Maybe instead of that white, maybe I'll pick up just a tiny bit of yellow to highlight just parts of his comb here and there. Okay. What do you think? That would be Mr. Roo and Mrs. Roo. I think the washboard will be okay. I think what I'll do, this is really a dirty washboard, but I think maybe it'll look good if I kind of trim it out in the blue, kind of similar to how this is kind of outlined there. I think that'll be good. This is really not a great piece at all. It's really, but I think sometimes those are fun. I love to do things on old pieces. That is, in case you happen to see before you popped on, I am going to do a sample. I'm calling it a sample sale. So things like this that I painted up as a sample for you guys as something else. I don't necessarily need it, and it might just be that somebody didn't want to take the class but would love a Mr. Roo. Why not offer it to you guys first and foremost? Add just a few more feathers here to this guy. Wasn't real thrilled with how some of these feathers turned out. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get those up and going starting tomorrow. And I'm going to let those go till Saturday. I like that you guys can, kind of pick your own prices. That works well. Then you know what works for you. And added a few more there. A few extra petals there. And then on Saturday this week, I'm going to do a spooky Saturday. I'll do a live, and then I will show you guys all the pieces I've been working on this week. I've just started working on. Try to do some spooky pieces. Try to get ahead of the Halloween game. And if spooky isn't your deal, not a big deal. Just adding a couple more strokes to this guy. I don't know if you guys all know, but the post office has had another increase in rates. Oh my God. It drives me crazy. When you go to ship something and it really costs you more to ship it than the item is worth. Adding a couple more strokes to him. He just seemed like he needed something. All right, that's pretty good. All right, so there we have Mr. Roo. Let me push this back and see if I'm not quite on top of you if I turn this. Oh, is it time for me to get my hair colored? Okay, guys, this was fun. So I hope you enjoyed it. You know I would love to see your Mr. Roo. So if you paint him, please post him in here, or you can post him on the Cheers page too. That would be fine. I know this will just stay up probably all summer because it's a pain in the butt to download videos, but I do get it done. And I do that just to encourage you to get things done, because I know sometimes I've been guilty of signing up for classes and never taking them. And sometimes if there's a deadline, I do a little better. Okay, guys, I think that's it. April, you love them. Oh, thanks, April. They're fun. I kind of love my little chickens. They are sweet. And I don't think there's anything else. I don't think so. I don't have any other classes scheduled yet for August. I will get one or two more out. It's just a busy month with going back to school and everything else. Oh, yeah. Take your time. Take your time. And guys, if there's ever a class that does get taken down, just send me a note, because I can always send you a link to an unlisted YouTube link. And that's where I try to store a lot of my classes, because I can't store them all on my computer. That's how I crashed the last two. But I do that way, and then I don't publish them for some time, but at least I can hand them off to you. So we've had quite the roosters. So there we go. There's this guy. There's the fresh eggs. There's the one on the coffee pot. I know. Pretty cool. All right. Thank you so much. Can't wait to see what you do with Mr. Roo. Talk to you soon.